Hello and welcome to Live on KEXP. My name is DJ Alex here at listener-powered independent KEXP. We're a nonprofit radio station broadcasting live at 90.3 FM in Seattle, online at kexp.org, and on demand from our free mobile app. These one-of-a-kind live performances are made possible by donations from music fans from all over the world just like you. So if you do want to donate, you can do so at kexp.org. Today, I'm super excited to be welcomed in the performance space by renowned German pianist, composer, and Academy Award winner Hauschka. He's currently on tour, fresh off releasing his 14th studio album, Philanthropy, back in October. He's going to play some songs and we're going to chat. So without further ado, Hauschka, live on KEXP. Such a beautiful ending to a trippy and unpredictable performance. It's Hauschka live on KEXP. Volker, first off, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today, making a stop at KEXP.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Those last two pieces, Loved Ones, the last track, and Nature right before that, both coming off your most recent album titled Philanthropy, your 14th album in your now 20-year career as Hauschka. Hope you can talk a little bit about the most recent album, the themes behind it, the motivation behind it.
Well, my last album was 2019, and then COVID came, and then a lot of people were locked up, and after that, I would say there was no time where I felt that there was not information that were, in a way, worrying in a way, where we always felt like, oh, where should that all go in a way? And my feeling was, I was asking myself, what is the answer? And in the end, I came always to the conclusion that the main answer for a lot of the problems that we have is mainly that we have to work with each other and live with each other. And, because there's no way we share time on Earth, so we have to find a way to share that together. And so mainly I was thinking about human qualities, because I felt I want to make a record that encourages people to look at their, maybe at their neighbors, at their families, and just say, hey, there are a lot of people around me that have a lot of strength, or they have a lot of power. They have maybe different opinions, but I really love them. Or so to focus more on the positive things. And so I named the album Philanthropy, and I gave all the pieces names where I felt these are important things that I think are for human qualities very important, and also for our development as human beings.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The Loved Ones, that last track, was the first taste of that album, if I remember correctly. And it's a beautiful way to have introduced the album and also wrap up this performance. The first three tracks, definitely taking a look at the prepared piano technique that I think you were the first person to really introduce me to the prepared piano idea, something I think my parents would have been very happy if I were throwing a bunch of objects into the piano. I'm just curious if you can explain a little bit about how you started that as a technique and as something that has informed a lot of your catalog.
Well, I would say as you mentioned, 20 years ago, I did my first record, Substantial, and I recorded that in Wales, in the Brecon Beacons, in the mountains, at a friend's studio. And before that, I worked on a couple of electronic records. And, before that, I had a career I had a major record deal that was mainly focusing on hits, and singles and 3-minute 20 radio edits and all that. And at some point, I was so disappointed about this whole format, because I felt it's so limited, and it's always circling around the singer and the lyrics. And a lot of times the lyrics are not really carefully taken there. They just fill up the space somehow. So I had the feeling, for me personally, that I need a musical format that is free from, let's say, vocals, free from verse and chorus, that is just, where I can actually spend the time as I want it. And so I started with electronic music, and I really loved it because you could work very textural, and also just, noises and stuff like that. Field recordings was a big topic at that time. But then I looked at my piano, and it was not used, and that's the instrument that I can play. So in a way, I wanted to find a way of creating electronic sounds and textures and all that in the piano. For example, in a show like that, where I don't need electronic amplification, where I can actually create all the sounds by myself. Meanwhile, I added a couple of other effects, so that I can have steady notes and, where I can loop myself, so that I have a little bit of an option of going in and out. But besides that, the main source of the sound is always the piano. So that's how I started. And 20 years ago, I started then with my first record, and I think I started even with putting my finger on the strings and just said, oh, this sounds like a muted guitar. Yeah.
It's been quite the journey for you over the 20 years, quite a prolific career. We were talking about how early on there was only really less than a handful of artists in this modern classical space that were finding homes on indie labels and performing at festivals, and now it's kind of exploded over the last 20 years. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on how the scene and the reception has evolved over the last 20 years.
Well, I would say, when it starts, nobody's asking for. A lot of times you are put in a place where you have not a lot of followers, because it's a little bit like, yeah, he's doing a weird kind of piano, and But once you have suddenly, people are more and more interested. Suddenly, maybe that comes from defining a certain style. Suddenly the people are searching for words for the style. So, and more people hear you, and then they oh, this is awesome, and I'm also a pianist, so why don't I continue? So I think the development is a wonderful development in terms of bringing the instrument to the focus, and as well creating a lot of diverse artists that are doing all sorts of stuff with the piano. At the same time, when I felt there's a category for this music, I try to escape the category, because I feel that's already the limitation for your own work. So I rather would make music with a violin, or I would just hum or bang on a door with a stick or whatever, but just to make sure that I'm not, that I'm actually having something to escape in a way out of that category. So I did that once the category was formed. I started to go a little bit sidewards, and then now I would say I'm still in that kind of genre, but at the same time I'm also crossing into other genres as well. So I'm very, very glad about that.
Yeah, I love the experimentation and the unpredictability that you bring to the piano and to the genre. And grateful that you've been able to be in this space for 20 years. We're able to have a show on KEXP that spotlights this type of music on a weekly basis. So honored to have you here today. I want to make mention of your film work under your own name, and recently winning an Academy Award as well as a BAFTA and a Lola for your score to All Quiet on the Western Front. Just curious how your work under your own name and how you approach work under Hauschka. What was the differences to you as far as those two lanes go?
Well, I think they are both not disconnected at all. At the same time, they are disconnected because they have the work as a film musician is always not a compromise. It's more like a thing that we, where I'm trying to figure out, having a collaboration with a director, having a collaboration with, with producers. So it's much more a thing where many people are having opinions, which I don't really. I'm not concerned about that. It's much more, I would say, it's an uplifting way of, creating music, because when I'm by myself, I'm the limit. And so as Hauschka, I can say I'm throwing things in the piano and nobody tells me, hey man, don't do that. But when I work with others, then of course they tell me, hey, we would love to have a very romantic string score, and then and that could be for someone who's very tied to his own artistry. That could be maybe something that is not really achievable, or not that makes you not happy in a way. But I love challenges, and so I at some point I divided myself into Volker Bertelmann, where I'm doing the film music, and Hauschka is in a way my artist name, where I'm able to freak out in a way and do whatever I like. And at the same time, of course, film music is also something that helps me to get distance to Hauschka, because if I do every year a record, at some point you are it's a little bit like like an everyday job.
Yeah.
But for a record, that's not good. You need space in between records.
Yeah. Well, you have an absolutely prolific catalog between both Hauschka and the film work under your own name. Anything to be on the lookout for in 2024 or maybe even next year?
Oh, well, I mean, I've released just the album. Then I'm doing a lot of not a lot of concerts, but I'm doing very concentrated little pockets of shows. I'm doing more film work. I would say until the end of the year, I have quite a couple of different films and series that I'm working on, and it's something that never was in my life beforehand. That I could plan a little bit for a year. I was mostly living from 1 month to the other, so I'm enjoying that at the moment very much.
That's awesome. Yeah. So excited for you and all that you've accomplished in your prolific career over the last few decades. So just want to thank you again for coming to KEXP, doing a live on KEXP session, and joining us today. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. It's been Hauschka Live on KEXP, and once again, these one-of-a-kind performances are made possible by donations from listeners all over the world. So if you do want to donate, you can go to kexp.org, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out more performances just like this. So Hauschka, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been Hauschka Live on KEXP.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.